Hey guys, have a really fun game using Maiev Shadowsong. She's a really strong hero. She has a one cost hero power where you're able to select a minion in the shop and you will get that minion, but it's locked and it unlocks in 2 turns. Your early game strategy with her is to just buy a lot of one cost pairs, and because you're able to get a minion for cheap, you'll have an easier time finding these one drop triples. Something I like to do is trying to lock minions that will eventually become the triples and using that to level up and potentially get that triple 2 turns in the future rather than buying the minions because you can get to a higher tavern tier and potentially get a higher tier minion off of that. Um, Going into our lesser trinket selection for this game, we ended up being in a spot where we had the option to uh, get that aggressive level of strategy that we're talking about with the busker. So when we were selecting our lesser trinkets, we had to kind of be gold conscious. And generally, I don't think about the gold cost too much with trinkets. Obviously, you want to be gold efficient on the turn that you buy them, but in general, they're all pretty balanced for their gold. And I don't think saying, I don't think there's many that are actually like overvalued for where they're at. So we had to be a little gold conscious when doing our trinket selection. And the other thing you'll see is that we didn't actually play the busker on the turn that we tripled it because we were able to do the strat of holding the triple in our hand and get a 6 drop off of it. And we could really only do that because we're at like 43 health going into tavern or turn 6. So for our lesser trinket selections, the first one was Comfy Coffin. This kind of just fits what we were saying of being too expensive. Rockin' Music Box would have been a reasonable pick, but it's really not a lot of payoff, not really good for stabilizing. Artisanal Urn, that's another one where it would have been okay. It kind of forces Undead a little bit too much. And then Trip Vouchers, because we were in that 43 health spot and we were guaranteed getting a 6 drop, I think taking the Trip Vouchers and hoping that we would use our 6 drops to stabilize was the better play. Because of having that triple, we then level up on turn 6 and 7 and get the 6 drop on 7. And then because we also had a triple at the shop, we got 2 6 drops going into turn 7. To kind of explain the choices on those, for the first 6 drop choice, we had to pick between Eternal Summoner, Rock, and Tour Group. Honestly, the choices was between Summoner and Tour Group. Rock you can't really take without recycling Wraith at this spot. Because the lobby didn't have a lot of Divine Shields, I ended up going with the Summoner over the Tour Group, and that kind of was mainly because it has the ability to, like, at least in the late game, be an anti-scam unit, and we could potentially start getting the skilling going. For the second triple on turn 7, the options were Sunscreener, which is honestly just bad, Rock, which is still bad because we didn't have that Wraith, and Element of Surprise. Element of Surprise, honestly, not, like, bad, it's not great, but it's at least a Divine Shield body, and we can probably use it to get another triple later with it, so that was the best pick. For our first greater trinket, the first choices was Enforcer Portrait. Um, it's a reasonable pick. I normally really only take it if I don't have direction and there's a Drakari or a Light Fang in the shop, which there wasn't. The next was Peggle Fishing Rod. Again, 6 drops are okay, or the 7 drops are okay in this lobby, but it's kind of like your backup pick. You take it if you don't have anything else that's better. Twin Sky Lantern, we just weren't really playing or enabling it. And then what ended up being our choice was Redeemer Portrait, and this is really good with where we were at. We had a lot of really good units to like pick up, and the lobby itself is a really good Nile lobby, having the Lubber and the Slippery Slider in the shop. And yeah, so ended up going with Redeemer Portrait. Then on turn 9 for our second Greater Trinket, this one was a little bit easier of a choice. First option was Twin Sky Lantern. Again, we still weren't, enabled for it. The next one was Nazahar's Postcard. We couldn't really play to it. We weren't playing like a cycle comp at all, so couldn't really take that. The next one was Colorful Compass for Undead. Unfortunately, we kind of played ourselves by leaving 2 Undeads on the board at the turn previously and got a really bad option here. And then what we ended up taking was Manipulator Portrait, which honestly is kind of meh. Using it with a Nala kind of doubles our scaling in the mid game. Ideally, you would want to use it on a like golden Nala, but I think we were just too far away from that being a reasonable choice. And honestly, the only thing that kind of sucks is with this comp, there's not really anything that you would want to copy. So here, going to our late game, our goal is to just cycle as many spells using the Slippery Slider and the Lubber. And the minions that we ended up scaling for the game ended up being Warpwing, which is just really solid minion to buff. The Slippery Slider, which is just a spell generation. The Lubber, which we were ended up tripling with that early, sorry, the early element of surprise. So it had Divine Shield, plus it's still kind of in a way spell generation because of the Nala Portrait. You can use because there's more cheaper spells. It's essentially scaling for your board. And then Eternal Summoner, which kind of like what we said when we picked it, it works as an anti-tech unit and it's just another tribe. And then throughout the game, we ended up buffing a Busker just because it was left over. And that was gonna be eventually what we devour whenever we find the Devourer spell. I think it's generally okay with these kind of comps to have a unit that's like not good that you kind of eventually plan on using the Devour on, because we had so much spell generation between the Slider and the Lubber. It's pretty reasonable that you're going to find that Devour eventually. So just buffing it while you can is kind of the best play. Eventually, our long-term goal was to just find enough utility and scam units that we could play a final board and sell out of the Nullas. The main units that we ended up trying to look for were kind of anti-dragon cards. The scary thing with dragons is you're kind of predicting them to play a bunch of Divine Shields. So some of the best anti-tech units for them would be the Blaster, which is what we ended up picking up. Leroy is also really good because it can hit through Divine Shield. And then another one to think about that we didn't end up finding is something like Bramble Witch. But again, like we were just outscaling them because we started the Nala scaling so early, and it ended up being a pretty easy win going to late game. That was kind of just based off of how strong of a early and mid game we had. So anyways, hopefully this kind of helps share like what you should be looking for at your trinket selection and like what you I guess should really be thinking about. I think it's really easy to just fall for like either falling for what's the like popular trinket or what's the HS replay like highest stat trinket or something like that. And I think a lot of times that can end up being a misplay, and you kind of need to think it over a little bit. Just because it has a big number doesn't necessarily mean it's good. You got to kind of know why something is actually good, and you should be thinking through, like, have I actually enabled the trinket I'm about to pick? So, anyways, hopefully that kind of helps you out. Hopefully just seeing how, people are thinking ahead of turns really helps. That's probably one of the biggest tips I can say is, like, before you make a turn, kind of think, like, what is my next turn going to be? Some of the worst plays I see are when people just like do one turn like gold efficiencies. And if you're not thinking a turn ahead, that's gonna really put you in bad spots going forward. So good luck on your guys' climbs. Hopefully the content helps you out. Thank you so much for just all the support and new followers, new comments and everything. If you haven't, I'd really appreciate, a comment for something you're looking for, as a subscription if you're enjoying the content, or, if there's something just like you want to see or you absolutely hate, even calling that out. I'm really trying to make this as good for you guys, make it so, one, I'm still motivated to do it. Just, hearing that people enjoy the content helps motivate me to do it. And knowing that you guys are actually learning something from it is, motivational to me. So good luck on your guys' climbs. See y'all out there. Bye.
Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I don't lie at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got